Hello and welcome to Granada Reports, live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Here's what's on the programme this evening.
Relief as aid worker Paul Ure's body is finally flown home. Now there's fresh agony for his family as they wait to hear if the Russians tortured him before he died.
Part of me hopes it's not true, what they've said, but I think it is true.
The mother on a mission, Figan Murray, whose son Martin was killed in the Manchester Arena attack, takes an important message on press intrusion to the United Nations.
There's the mountain, and this is the man. We'll be talking to Afghanistan veteran Andy Reid MBE about climbing Kilimanjaro.
How 99-year-old Violet is knitting 1,000 poppies for the British Legion. She's our latest Pride of Britain nominee.
And find out what a rather powerful jet stream means for our weather over the next few days, later on in the weather forecast.
So do stay with us for all of that. First, though, the sister of an aid worker who died in Ukraine after being detained by Russian separatists says the return of his body means everything to her and her loved ones.
But now the family of Paul Ure from Warrington face an anxious wait for the authorities here to confirm what they're dreading to hear, that he was tortured by his captors.
Paul was 45 and a father of 4 children. His body was flown into Heathrow Airport earlier today. Our reporter Emma Sweeney has tonight's top story.
Lindsay, I am really pleased to let you and your mum know that Paul has now arrived at London Heathrow. It's amazing. My mum's going to be so happy.
It's the news she's been awaiting for 2.5 months. Confirmation that finally her brother's body is now back on British soil.
I'm actually happy. I'm a little bit sad, but I'm happy he's finally back where he belongs, and we can now get one step closer to our last goodbye and be able to lay him to rest where he belongs.
Paul Ure's family have been desperate for the return of his remains following his death back in July. The humanitarian aid worker from Warrington lost his life while being detained by Russian-backed separatists in Ukraine. But with the Foreign Office unable to pay for repatriations, Paul's loved ones have been left to the kindness of strangers.
To get Paul back, we was quoted £10,000. None of us have that. My mum doesn't have that. His daughters didn't have that. I certainly don't have that. So we set up a GoFundMe page, and it was amazing how many people have donated.
How surprised were you by that outpouring of love from people you don't even know?
Very surprised. We can't believe how kind people are with the words and the money that they've donated, and we are very grateful.
And now Paul's remains are back in the UK. His family hope a post-mortem will help them understand exactly how he died. The 45-year-old's captors said it was due to stress and chronic illness, but earlier this month, Ukraine's foreign minister said Paul's body showed signs of possible unspeakable torture.
Deep down, part of me hopes it's not true, what they've said, but I think it is true. I really do wish he hadn't gone, but I am proud of what he tried to do. I do have 3 brothers, but I'm closer to him the last 2 years. So he give me a big hug and tell me to stop being silly.
The Ukrainian government has vowed to identify those responsible and hold them to account. And back home, Paul's family say they too will continue their search for answers, all the while aware they may never fully know the full truth behind his death.
Well, we can see what a terrible ordeal this has been for Paul's family, Emma. How long will it be before they get the answers that they want now that his body's home?
Well, Paul's family told me today it could be weeks before they know the cause of his death. And even then, of course, there is always the possibility the post-mortem could come back as inconclusive. Now, they are very worried, as you heard there in the report, the suggestion from the Ukrainian foreign minister that Paul may well have been tortured before his death, and they're hoping the post-mortem will help them to shed some light on that. Now, as they wait for the results, they're starting to think about his funeral for the first time, really. And again, you heard in the report the generosity generosity of people from all over the world who helped to pay for Paul's repatriation back to the UK. And the leftover funds from that will now go towards paying for his funeral, because his family say they want to ensure they give him the best send-off, the send-off he deserves.
Yeah, of course, they're very grateful for that support. Emma, thank you very much. Well, next night, it's hard to believe that if someone you love was killed in a terrorist attack, you'd hear that news on your doorstep from a journalist. But that is what happened to the sister of Martin Hett, who died in the arena bombing in Manchester.
Now, Martin's mother, Fegan Murray, has raised the serious issue of press intrusion after a terrorist attack at the United Nations in New York. She's spoken exclusively to our correspondent, Victoria Grimes.
Terrorism hits you as a family. It turns your life upside down. You're literally, the family is being ripped apart, your emotions, your soul's ripped apart. And the last thing you need is media intrusion at that point.
She's brought her fight to the highest powers in the UK. Now, she's bringing it to the most famous stage in the world, the United Nations.
How does it feel to be here?
Quite a privilege, actually, to be honest, and really humbling experience, the whole thing, really.
This time, Fegan's calling for action against media intrusion in the wake of a terror attack. It's after her own family's grief was compounded by journalists looking for news stories.
My youngest daughter was watching the news, obviously, and the doorbell went at 10 o'clock. She innocently answered the door thinking it's the postman. And a journalist said to her, "I'm so sorry for your loss. What was your brother like? Do you want to talk to me about him?" And Martin was actually still at that point dead on the floor.
You were talking about press intrusion, and this is something which has had a huge impact on the lives of you and your family, isn't it?
That should have come from my husband and I. We should have been the ones telling my daughter her brother had died. That's point number one. Point number two, at the time of that happening, Martin was still dead on the floor in the arena, and nobody had been identified yet as dead. So how this person had the audacity to make that assumption and then face my daughter, a child, with that information is beyond me.
Fegan wants a law to prevent press from contacting victims' families in the first 48 hours after a tragedy, to spare them the further pain at the darkest times of their lives.
You didn't need that added stress in an already intolerably stressful situation.
Martin's law is already a step closer. It'll see anti-terrorism training for venue staff throughout the UK. And as the next chapter of the arena inquiry approaches, she says her fight on all counts will continue.
How difficult an experience has living through this inquiry been?
You hear detail that maybe you don't want to hear, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. It's been an incredibly damaging experience, but on the same accord, it was an incredibly important process to go through as somebody who's lost a lot of money in an attack, because you want answers.
She's told government ministers she's not going anywhere.
I read somewhere that if you think small is not effective, you have never been in bed with a mosquito. You see, I'm that mosquito, and I'll be hovering around your head and the government until this legislation is done. I will not be going anywhere. Martin's always sat here on my shoulder, giving it this. I can hear him say, "Go on, Mum, go on," and I will do.
Fegan's under no illusions about the scale of the task still ahead, but she knows there's no better place for her voice to be heard. Victoria Grimes, ITV News, New York.
Yeah, well done to you, Fegan. Well, moving on to other news tonight. An investigation has been opened into allegations that staff mistreated patients at a mental health unit in Greater Manchester. Police say it follows undercover filming at the Edenfield Centre in Prestwich by the BBC Panorama programme. Greater Manchester Mental Health NHS Foundation Trust says a number of staff have been suspended. It's taken action to protect patient safety and commissioned an independent clinical review of services.
The Conservative MP for High Peak has said he has, quote, serious reservations about some of the announcements made by the Chancellor during last week's mini-budget. Robert Largan says cutting the top tax rate for the best paid was a mistake during what he called this deeply worrying time. He's calling on the government to look after vulnerable people amid the cost of living crisis.
And the Labour Party conference has ended in Liverpool with the party promising free breakfast clubs for all primary school children. On a visit to one of the city's schools, the Shadow Education Secretary said it would be part of a modern childcare system if they get into power. Labour insists it'll give working parents more flexibility, and they plan to pay for it by reinstating the top level of income tax.
We've seen from the government, they've cut tax on the very wealthiest in our society. That we think that's fundamentally the wrong choice to be making. Instead, we would put that support into making sure that all of our children get the best start to the day. So breakfast clubs for every child in every school, so that they really make that progress when they're here learning and they get breakfast and a brilliant start to the day.
The famous Laxey wheel on the Isle of Man is turning again after 2 years. The 168-year-old water wheel is the largest of its kind in the world, but was forced to close for restoration work. Now it's finally up and running again, and people are being encouraged to visit.
A couple from Wirral say they are over the moon after getting engaged on stage with their favourite 90s pop group. With the help of steps, Adam got down on one knee at Birmingham Pride and asked his boyfriend Stephen to marry him in front of a crowd of thousands. And you've guessed it, their wedding song has already been decided.
So our song together that we have together is The Slightest Touch by Steps, and we've got the lyrics tattooed on our ankle. So that'll obviously be the wedding song.
Yeah.
And we wish them all the very best.
Yeah, they'll have a dance sorted out too, one of those steps routines. Now, we have reported many times on this programme how soldiers who've been injured serving their country have returned home and struggled with their mental health.
Well, few know that struggle more than Andy Reid from St Helens. Andy suffered terrible injuries after stepping on a landmine in Afghanistan 13 years ago. He lost both legs and his right arm.
But after climbing the mountain of recovering from his injuries and finding a new purpose in life, he's now planning to climb another one.
Yeah, not just any mountain, but the tallest in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro, of course. Andy Reid, MBE, joins us now. Great to see you, Andy.
Hi.
So you're going off tomorrow? Are you all ready, all packed?
Yeah, tomorrow, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock flight. I've packed most of my things. I've got loads of things. More legs than a spider I've had to pack. I've got 3 left legs, right leg, 2 arms.
Security will love that.
Yeah,
at the airport.
They're going to struggle. It goes off. The metal detector is definitely going to go off when I walk through.
Are you a bit nervous about all of this?
Yeah, I'm nervous and apprehensive as well. It's going to be a tough challenge, probably the toughest challenge that I've ever done. But also I've got reasons why I'm doing the challenge. It'll be the 13th anniversary of me getting injured when I summit the mountain on the 13th of October.
Wow.
And I know every step that I take on the mountain is helping other people, inspiring other people to maybe overcome their mountain.
And helping other people with the charity you set up yourself, Standing Tall. Just for people watching at home, remind them what it does.
Yeah, Standing Tall Foundation, so we do free drug and alcohol counselling and free mental health treatment as well. To anybody really who reaches out to us, obviously with the pandemic, they're coming towards the end of that now, but also the cost of living crisis now is happening, is affecting a lot of people with anxiety and depression and all those kind of things, and they can reach out to my foundation and get that help and support that they need.
And Andy, when you came back, when you were injured, you could have done perhaps with Standing Tall Foundation then. What was it like then without that sort of support?
Yeah, that was a part of the reason that I've set it up really. Our veterans have been reaching out to me who's suffering with the PTSD, and I can give them that support that they need. Being a soldier myself, I've probably got a bit more of an understanding than some other organisations, and it's vital to have that support to be able to get you back on the front foot again and back moving forward. You know, a lot of charities concentrate on giving people maybe a handout, where I think it's more important to give people a hand up. Back into employment, back onto the housing ladder, back into feeling valued and self-worth.
But for you, Andy, personally, what was your toughest part?
Yeah, there was some tough times, just trying to find out who you are again, where you belong. You know, you had that uniform and you were a soldier, and you knew every day you put that on, and you're part of that system. And
routine and belonging.
Routine, you had that belonging, and then all of a sudden your uniform's taken away from you, you've lost all your belonging. So to give people that back again and help people on that journey that they're going on is very important to me, and it inspires me to get out of bed in the morning. You know, when times are tough, you know, I do get angry, I do get upset sometimes when you see certain things, or I'm having a bad day, or William might ask me to fasten his shoelaces, and I can't fasten his shoelaces. Little things like that, you know, you want to do some DIY around the house and you can't hold a nail and a hammer at the same time just to put a picture up. You need to ask people for help, and that's what's very important, is that anyone should be able to ask someone for help. And by doing that, we can then move on. You're just swallowing that pride sometimes, and asking for help can make your life a lot better.
Yeah, very, very important. Andy, listen, we wish you the very best of luck, and thank you so much for coming in tonight.
No, I'd be delighted. Thank you very much for having me on again. Brilliant.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, there's just no stopping you, Andy. The very best of luck with it. And we will, of course, update you with how they get on. Let's take a look at what's coming up now on the ITV News at 6:30 with Mary.
Coming up on the programme, the Bank of England steps in to try to calm the markets. In an emergency move, it says it'll buy government debt at whatever scale necessary to avoid material risk to UK financial stability. In response, the Labour leader is calling for Parliament to be recalled and the government's mini-budget to be abandoned. Millions are ordered to evacuate in Florida as Hurricane Ian closes in. And concerns about Christmas shopping chaos after Royal Mail announces 19 days of strikes. Well, do join me for those stories and much more at 6:30.
Now, an icon of indie culture where students and famous faces alike bought records, clothes and got the odd tattoo is marking its 40th anniversary.
Yeah, I've been there a bit myself in my time. It surely can't be 40. Affleck's in Manchester has always been on trend with a whole raft of independent boutiques and artists, and they have been documenting their contribution to music, fashion and more since the early 80s.
And what a contribution. Tim Scott is there to see all of it unveiled tonight. Tim, what is going on?
Yes, 40 years of Affleck's. It's fair to say that if you've grown up in the Northwest in the past 40 years, then the chances are you'd have passed through the doors of this place at some point or another. Generation after generation of youngsters have come here to buy everything from T-shirts to CDs to records to clothes to second-hand clothes, to have the nails done, to have the noses pierced and all sorts of other nonsense as well. To celebrate the 40th birthday party, they have produced a fantastic glossy photo album. Yes, you can see it there, and the man behind it, the man who's taken the photographs, it's Paul here. Paul, now I have to talk about your trousers. You bought those trousers when?
Not too long. These were in 1986.
And where did you buy them from?
Affleck's Palace.
And now you're producing the book?
The book, yeah.
That's come full circle for you. What was it like getting involved with the book?
It was great. I mean, being a photographer, creative from Manchester as well, it's just great to get involved with people from Affleck's Palace, meeting the people, just listening to their stories and then trying to photograph them and tell those stories through my images.
Fantastic stuff. Were you a youngster when you bought those pants?
Can't remember. I was young. Yeah. But the good thing as well is Affleck's as well. They've still got young people. They're diverse and different, and they're carrying that mantle on, which is a fantastic thing for Manchester.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Paul.
No
now, Mickey here, you run one of the stalls here. Mickey, why is this place so important? Why does it work so well with the youth of today?
So for every brilliant city there needs to be an awesome subculture, and Manchester, Affleck's is the jewel in the crown of Manchester's subculture. It's so important that there's a place for people to come and find their own identities, to discover who they are, to feel safe in their spaces, to be inspired.
And it's fair to say it did kickstart the regeneration of the northern quarter, this whole part of Manchester as well, didn't it?
I think it's really important that Affleck's is a space not only for customers and for people to find their own identities, but for independent traders to be able to have an affordable space to start up their businesses.
Yeah, fantastic. OK, now joining me now is Ian from the Ian Gay Pride Shop. Yeah. How long have you been here, Ian?
So we started the business in 2014, and we just started with one unit, and it was a little makeup shop. And since then, we now have 11 units, and we also have the Pride shop as well.
Wow. What's important about this place, very quickly?
It's cheap, and anyone with not much money can start a business like I did.
Fantastic. I'm off to buy a cheap Velvet Underground T-shirt and buy some X-ray specs. Back to the studio, Lucy Robb.
Thanks, Tim. Now, Violet Fort from Preston might be 99, but that's not stopping her. Why should it? She's currently in the process of knitting 1,000 poppies for the British Legion, and she wants to hit her target before her 100th birthday.
Violet is the latest of the finalists, hoping to become our regional fundraiser of the year at the Pride of Britain Award. She vowed to help former servicemen and women after her husband was captured during World War II.
Zoe Muldoon reports.
99-year-old Violet Fort has spent every day for the past 6 years knitting poppies. For some, knitting is a pastime, but for Violet, it's a vocation.
I like a goal. I like something to set my mind on, you know. I shall appreciate myself if I do it. I'm a giver. I know I always will be a giver.
Violet lived through World War II and worked in a factory for the Lancaster bombers. Her husband Dalton was a Chindit in Burma and was captured by the Japanese. He returned home very sick and weighed just 6 stones.
And he came back like nothing. He was like nothing. He went to the Liverpool Tropical Hospital and they were there 6 months. And then from there, I sort of took on and built him up as best as I could. Cod liver oil, egg and sherry.
Dalton passed away 20 years ago. Like many soldiers, his mental health also suffered as a result of the war.
The worst thing really was when we got this black hole thing, you know. I managed to find out the best way to cope with it. He was a good man. He loved children. He was every child's granddad. Everybody loved him, all the kids loved him. Yeah, and he was a helpful man, so anything like that was on a helpful line, he would love it.
Violet vowed to help all ex-servicemen and women, so started knitting poppies to raise money for the Royal British Legion. In return, the charity gave her a Long Service Award, but she doesn't plan on stopping yet. Violet's aim is to have knitted 1,000 poppies by her 100th birthday next March.
I thought, I'll try and get 1,000 done. I haven't got to, but I'm going to. If it helps them and you've done right and are happy, why not?
And tell me how you feel about being nominated for Pride of Britain Fundraiser of the Year Award.
I can't believe it. I would love to think it would come my way, because I do feel it happened now, and I wouldn't have another chance at my age. If I've done it for the Legion, it would be great for me, you know. And then it's going to be great for them, isn't it?
And we'll meet our final Pride of Britain fundraiser tomorrow, nominated, of course, by you.
Yeah, well done, Violet. Here's Joe with the weather.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thank you. Very good evening to you. Some nice sunshine around earlier today, but as we go through the next few hours or so, a spell of rather wet and windy weather sweeping down across the northwest. That will clear through, and then it's a blustery day tomorrow, but on the whole, feeling a little bit milder. A powerful jet stream will push another wet and windy day in the form of a deep area of low pressure in for Friday. The weekend starts unsettled, but will settle down by Sunday. Now back to this evening's details. Quite a wet couple of hours to come for many places. That batch of wet and windy weather sinks southwards, and certainly after midnight most places will become a little drier with a few mist or fog patches, still that wind around, and that will actually prevent temperatures from falling away too low tonight, probably 8 or 9 Celsius away from towns. On to tomorrow. First of all, the sun will be rising at 7:08, setting at 6:53 tomorrow evening. For tomorrow, quite a blustery start to the day with 1 or 2 showers getting going quite quickly. Any mist and fog in the Pennines will lift through the middle part of the morning, and then skies will brighten up. So some nice sunshine around those showers tomorrow afternoon. A blustery feel to the day, but temperatures in fact improving on today. So 16 or 17 Celsius tomorrow. Unfortunately though, a rather wet and windy day to come on Friday. Bye-bye for now.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thank you, Joe. That is Granada Reports this Wednesday evening. We are back on TV just after news at 10.
Tomorrow, the Liverpool captain Jordan Henderson will be telling us how he's hoping the success of the Lionesses can inspire England at the World Cup. Don't miss that tomorrow. Until then, bye-bye.
Good night.